California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara testifying at the state capitol today for the first time after the January Los Angeles wildfires. That hearing focusing on the state's insurance crisis.
And I'm sure you know there was an urgency to this work as Californians are either paying more and more every year for their coverage or finding they can't even get insurance companies to cover them. KCRA 3's Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala covered that hearing. She also had her own questions for the insurance commissioner. So let's check in. And what did he have to say, Ashley?
Edie, in that hearing today, the insurance commissioner was candid about this crisis. He has a sweeping set of reforms that are going into effect right now that he expects to stabilize California's insurance market, but it's expected to overall make the cost of insurance more expensive. And he owned up to not acting as quickly as he should have to address the market, and he acknowledged there are challenges ahead.
I'll start with the biggest question. Why has it taken this long?
California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara in the hot seat in front of the State Assembly's Insurance Committee.
The Camp Fire was in 2018. Okay, the year before that, we had the Sonoma North Bay fires. Right. So my frustration is with the lack of real urgent action, and only now are we finally getting these regulations.
Could I have moved quicker? Absolutely, but at the fear that I might lose this in court over process.
Lara's new regulations started a few months ago, but he told lawmakers it will be another year before California's insurance market is stabilized. The new rules are meant to bring insurance companies back to California by allowing them to consider new factors when they set rates. That includes the likelihood of catastrophe and the cost insurance companies pay to insure themselves. In exchange, these companies promise to cover more properties in high wildfire risk areas. Lara told lawmakers insurance companies assured him the LA wildfires won't affect the reforms.
Only coming in with 22%, which is less than they asked for. So
lawmakers asked how he can make sure they won't lead to even more constant, bigger rate hikes.
And are we kind of hostages in this situation?
Hopefully the big increases will stabilize after now with the insurance companies getting some market certainty in California through our new reforms. But also, you know, I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know what the future holds if we're looking at floods, earthquakes.
When I talk to constituents, the two things they want to know is, number one, am I going to get canceled?
Yep.
And number two, how much are my rates going to go up? So help us simplify this and set those expectations.
Absolutely. This is going to be painful, because we should have done these changes years ago, right? And so now I'm responsible now, so I'm going to do these changes right now. The last thing I need is to make sure, and I tell them, the last thing I need is an insurance company to go insolvent, and then we're all on the hook.
State lawmakers and the governor also have the ability to make changes that could help. I asked Lara about this after the hearing. Do you need the legislature and governor to do more? Maybe not necessarily directly with the regs that you're dealing with, but with, you know, these regulations overall statewide and how we do basically everything here in California.
If we don't make, I can make all the regulatory changes in the world, but if we don't get the legislature, the governor, and all the state leaders, even local governments, to focus on mitigation and fire hardening people's homes, we're going to be here in another 2, 3, 4 years.
Now, he urged lawmakers not only to invest in those efforts, but to cut red tape, rethink some of the state's environmental laws, land use, and building codes. He said states like Alabama and Louisiana are leading on this, and now California is in a position where it's trying to catch up.
And Ashley, we should mention, people may remember your coverage last week. There was a hearing like this in the Senate that he missed because he was in Bermuda. Right. Did he address that today?
Yeah, actually, he brought it up without even being asked about it on that panel. That conference in Bermuda was held by the reinsurance industry. Those are the companies that insure insurance companies. Again, the cost of having that coverage is something insurance companies can now factor into rates here in California under those new reforms. Reinsurance companies are not regulated by any state, so the commissioner said it was important to engage directly with them. He said, his office has noted that 40% of those companies are actually located in Bermuda, and so it was important to engage. He said he'll go anywhere globally to be able to talk about this issue.
As for today, it seems like he came ready to answer some questions.
He seemed very prepared.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Ashley. Thank you.